now 16 minutes after 7. It's time for us to get into the political point. And this morning, like I had mentioned earlier, I have party leader for Thirdway Alliance, Dr. Ekuru Aukot. Thank you for joining us this morning. And quite a number of issues I'd like us to talk about. But let's start with the fact that the IEBC chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, has suspended the Commission's Chief Executive Officer, Ezra Chiloba, for 3 months, pending investigations into procurement irregularities linked to the 2017 elections. And as our political reporter, Muremi Mwangi, now delves into this, Chiloba's suspension comes only 2 weeks after IEBC was put on the spot by the Auditor General to account for 5.4 billion Kenyan shillings issued 4 years ago.
8 months since the Supreme Court overturned President Uhuru Kenyatta's August 8th victory, electoral body IEBC CEO Ezra Chiloba on Friday became the first casualty of the bungled election, with a 3-month suspension hanging on his neck, pending conclusion of an ongoing audit into the acrimonious 2017 polls.
Should have gone much earlier because he became too arrogant. He could not listen to anybody, and he rubbished anything that was suggested to improve the deliveries of IEBC.
IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati announced Chiloba's surprise suspension with the support of fellow commissioners Abdi Gulie and Boya Molu.
Consolata.
As his deputy Consolata Minor reportedly stormed out of the meeting in protest, with fellow Commissioner Ambassador Paul Kurgat absconding from the vote. 6th Commissioner Margaret Wanjala was out on official duty. Speaking to KTN News, Kurgat said he objected Chiloba's suspension as it was not on the main agenda of the meeting, arguing that an issue of such magnitude ought to have been substantively listed on the agenda, adding that the procurement queries cited were still part of an ongoing audit.
But unless they follow those recommendations of overhauling the system, overhauling the secretariat, so that they have a secretariat that understands its complementarism of the commission, these problems will continue. It will be Oswago, and then Chiloba, and then Mwikali, and then Nyokabi.
According to the suspension notice already served on Chiloba, the embattled CEO is to proceed on a mandatory 3-month leave, during which period he is barred from transacting any business for the electoral body without authorization from the commission.
It is a tragedy that this country went into a repeat elections that cost us so much money, and yet we want to wish the matter away.
Former CEO of IEBC, Oswago, he took criminal responsibility for his actions. So I believe Chiloba, as the CEO of IEBC, he should take full responsibility.
Following IEBC's September 1st Supreme Court embarrassment with the nullified presidential poll, Chebukati had excluded Chiloba from his project team, which he eventually set up to oversee the October 26th repeat poll. As opposition protests intensified across the country, demanding Chiloba's resignation, with key opposition leaders pushing for his prosecution over the anomalies reported in the bungled August 8th polls.
3 days, right?
The Friday suspension coming only 2 weeks after Chiloba's grilling by the National Assembly Public Accounts Committee over audit queries in the IEBC budget for the financial year 2014-2015, including 250 million shillings spent on electoral gadgets that failed in the 2013 election. Now, while the Supreme Court verdict did not specifically indict individual IEBC officials for the bungled presidential poll, Chiloba's suspension no doubt puts him on the spot, even as the auditors continue with their investigations. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News, in Nairobi.
And that was the basis for our question for today, and I'd like to hear what your comments are. What is your reaction to the suspension of IEBC CEO Ezra Chiloba? What is your reaction to the suspension of IEBC CEO Ezra Chiloba? And just to read some of your comments, I have one who says, I support the suspension. If there is evidence he deserves to go home. There's also one who says there's a lot of irregular operations within the IEBC. This needs to be checked before we get to 2022. There's a tweet that says, this is all political. There is nothing that the CEO has done. He ought to be reinstated. And, well, keep your comments coming. And, well, like I'd mentioned earlier, we have party leader for Thirdway Alliance, Dr. Ekuru Aukot. And let's start from right there, Dr. Aukot. Your thoughts on what's happening at IEBC?
Actually, I'm surprised that it's Chiloba who has only gone. I would have thought that someone like Chebukati will have also gone a long time ago with Chiloba. Because I think it's not deniable that IEBC, there's really a lot of problems at IEBC, the way they work. These problems, we kept on raising them since last year, just the way they do things. We've raised a question around leadership of that institution, right from Chebukati himself, and therefore with the weak leadership such as it is there right now, you cannot even implement the mandate of the institution. IEBC has never really inspired confidence on Kenyans, even during last year's general elections. It's just that we are to balance the interest of the country and the interest of an institution and a few individuals. From what I glean from the story, it seems to me there are serious procedural issues that ought to have been followed, even to suspend Chiloba. You know, we're supposed to be a country that abides with the rule of law and procedures and regulations. So whereas, you know, the suspension may be right, but I think let's do it in a procedural way. Yeah, but you see, I'm not surprised, Gitonga, because the person the person at the heart of this suspension is Chebukati. A man who, when you look at the interviews he did, actually came last in the interview, but was rewarded with position number 1. So basically, this is a man, in my view, who is a victim of political manipulation, is either a stooge of some political, you know, group. And I think for me, it should be a learning lesson. Who should we put into leadership in our especially constitutional institutions such as the electoral management body? It has to be people who are competent, who qualify to deliver that mandate. And honestly, my own experience with Chebukati is that he's a very weak lawyer.
So would you say that what we're going through right now is purely down to incompetence from the...
To be honest with you, it is incompetence, it is incapability, it's lack of suitability to perform a function, as is required in Chapter 6 of our Kenya Constitution, that when you're performing a public function, you must be suitable and must be competent to do it. We ourselves have suffered the wrath of an incompetent IEBC. You may want to recall that early this year, we actually wrote to IEBC to say to them that we want to sponsor a referendum based on the popular initiative under Article 257 of the Kenya Constitution. It took IEBC a whole month to just respond to us until I called Chebukati, I sent him messages, I sent him email, no reply. I mean, when you're in such a public office, honestly, you know...
There has to be some communication.
Yes,
especially on such important national issues.
Exactly, and I'm saying I want to move an amendment through the popular initiative. And IEBC has a central role because it's them who must receive the signatures, the bill, and transmit to the counties. And then you just take it casually like that. So for me, what came to my mind is, if you can ignore a fully registered political party like Thirdway Alliance Kenya, and if you can ignore an email communication from a party leader, can you imagine who else he serves? Can he have audience with an ordinary kawaida mwananchi who wants certain things clarified? And the reason we did that is because we were cognizant of the fact there was Punguza Mizigo. I mean, not Punguza Mizigo, but there was that Okoa Kenya initiative. Then there was Punda Amechoka. And we wanted to ask them, you know, what went wrong with these previous initiatives to amend the Constitution? And by the way, he even refused to come to our meetings. So really, I mean, I think the bottom line is this, Gitonga. IEBC is in dire need of leadership. IEBC is in dire need of overhaul, and I support people who are calling for the overhaul IEBC. And this thing was said a long time ago. But I will also warn the political class to stay away from trying to manipulate or to have the kind of IEBC that they want. And I think for me, these problems have come at a very timely fashion because it's come at least 4 years before the next general election. So I think the earlier we fix them, the better. All
right, from your experience, and since you've interacted with IEBC also as you know, an interested party, do you think then that his incompetence is by design? Because, like you mentioned on the interview, as they were being vetted, he's probably one of those who scored least compared to the applicants.
He actually came number last in the interviews. So again, therein lies a question of integrity. In a competitive interview, that talks about merit and suitability. And let me just explain it for the viewers. You see, the position of a chairperson of IEBC is supposed to be equivalent to the position of a Supreme Court judge.
Correct.
So that when this person communicates his decision, it's almost a judgment. It has to take into account interpretation, either purposive interpretation of the Constitution or clarify the law. Chebukati has come out as a person who is incapable of doing all that. Now, to your question, if I did not perform well in an interview and I came last or performed the least, and then I'm rewarded with position number 1, integrity demands that you actually decline that appointment. And when you don't decline that appointment, then it means you have accepted yourself to be manipulated and to be used. And if you look at the conduct of the leadership at IEBC, and that of the chairman of IEBC in particular, for the longest of time, he never gave Kenyans confidence that he can actually make decisions. And evidence is there. Even when you meet him, he will promise you guys that, okay, fine, we will look into your case. The next thing, he's making a decision. I remember we had meetings with him at Intercontinental. I remember during the procurement of ballot papers, we had a meeting at the Hilton. He will promise us one thing, that he's consulting. So we give him our views. Then the next thing, he makes a completely different decision. Then you wonder, okay, then what was the point of consulting us?
Consultation.
So I think for me, the bottom line is this. IEBC needs a very strong and competent leadership. Currently, it does not have. And I think we also need to get to the bottom of these corruption scandals. I mean, you know, I think a lot of people in our country in position of leadership always fall back to impunity. And I think there's always some godfather or godmother behind them, that they make certain decisions knowing too well that you can't touch me. Some people are untouchable. I mean, by the time you bring a substantive motion, such as to suspend the CEO of an organization, the accounting officer, the man who actually must account for the monies, the operations of the organization, through an agenda called AOB. In modern day, 21st century of corporate world, who even has an agenda called AOB?
All right, and what do you see as the way forward, given that this is where we are now? Chebukati is still the chairperson of the IEBC and seems to be unable to bring the team together, because even this particular incident of having the CEO suspended or sent on compulsory leave is one that the commissioners have not agreed on. There seems to be disagreement even amongst themselves.
Two things should happen. If you're really a leader worth your salt and you're not able to bring together your team together, the honorable thing to do is to resign. And I think Chebukati should actually resign immediately. I mean, his resignation, his exit from IEBC is long overdue. Long overdue. But if he doesn't, another way forward is that I think he must be pushed out. This man, in my view, nearly burnt this country last year because of his indecisiveness. Indecisiveness even to interpret Article 140, sub-Article 3 of the Kenya Constitution, which says, go and repeat the election afresh, because what you did in August was a nullity ab initio, meaning there was no election that took place. This was the communication of the Supreme Court of Kenya. And what does he do? He goes and decides, let me only gazette Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. This is a person, I mean, if you ask even a first-year law student, you cannot make such a big blunder. You're not able to lead. And then this man has actually come out as a very dangerous leader in this electoral management body. You know, and honestly, I think for me, he seems to prove what Joseph Stalin said way back in the 1960s, that those who cast the vote decide nothing, and those who count the vote decide everything. This seems to me, with a Chebukati and his kind of leadership, we should be worried whether he can even organize by-elections going forward.
Evidently, you don't have much confidence in the chairperson, and
I lost confidence in him last year.
All right, and you seem to suggest that he could be, or there's a possibility that he is being manipulated.
I think from his flip-flopping, like I've seen somebody describing like a pendulum, it's clearly that he can't make a decision. I mean, you have to be decisive, and you have to lead the organization with certain decorum. I mean, you have to interpret rules and regulations accordingly. IEBC has a code of regulation and conduct and all that, governed by the IEBC Act, electoral law, and the Constitution. And I think Chebukati, for me, has not demonstrated that he's able to do all those things. And I think if that is the lead, the head of the institution, as they say, fish starts rotting from the head.
From the head.
And this fish is already rotten, so you can imagine down there what's happening.
Okay, as we wind up on that, who do you think then is the hand behind the puppet?
To be honest with you, I followed. Remember, I was the first chairperson of the IEBC selection panel in 2011. And my experience is that all political class manipulate an electoral management body, especially the so-called competitive political class. They seem to agree that everybody must have their man or their woman in the commission. So whereas I may not point out exactly who it is, but I can tell you, Itonga, having experienced even being lobbied to pick some people into the IEBC, the political class is always very interested, especially the so-called who think that they are the next in line of the leadership of this country, or people who think that they have got a greater persuasion. There is no doubt, I can tell you, that yes, they manipulate, they listen even to their tribal bases. Yeah.
Anybody specific or any party that possibly you would think would be that you're describing, that would be manipulating?
You see, if you follow the debates around replacement of IEBC from 2016, the disbandment of the Ahmed Isaac-led commission, you can only blame two political parties. You can blame Jubilee, and you can blame, I think that time, CORD before they became NASA. Because they are the ones who colluded and say, we don't want the Ahmed Isaac-led commission. Then they are the ones who agreed also on how to recruit the new commission and the appointment. So the blame should squarely fall on the so-called big political parties who have an interest in this. And I may not be surprised. You know, I'm not a prophet of doom, neither am I the son of one, but I'm not too surprised that maybe there's even an agreement from the so-called political class that let's push these people out.
Okay, well, we shall wait and see how that is going to pan out. But let's look at other issues. And, well, with me in studio is Thirdway Alliance Party leader, Dr. Ekuru Aukot. And he has begun a public initiative to alter the Constitution in order to reduce the current composition of the elected leaders to just 194. The initiative, dubbed Punguza Mizigo, seeks to shrink the size of Parliament in an effort to reduce what has been termed as a skyrocketing public wage, which certainly is not the first time such a move has been attempted, with similar initiatives like Okoa Kenya failing to materialize into the referendum. Timothy Otieno now reports on Aukot's move to succeed where others may have failed.
28 men and women who believe they're about to change the face and composition of the country's parliament.
Today, we are launching the collection of at least 1 million signatures, but our aim is for 5 million signatures.
The initiative, christened as Operation Punguza Mizigo, is the latest push to have what some term as an overpopulated parliament cut down to size.
We have a lot of MPs and senators, and so some of them we don't even know their work. We can't see what they're doing.
The Thirdway Alliance Party leader is hoping to reduce the number of elected senators and members of parliament from 416 to just 194, and in the process abolish the woman representative seat.
Each county will elect one man, one woman, and one man to the National Assembly. This will therefore give us a total of 94 elected members of parliament to the National Assembly.
Says that the move will reduce expenditure incurred by parliament each year from 35 billion to just 5 billion shillings. His push for the referendum also necessitated by what he says is over-representation at the August House, which he termed as being too political, lazy, and blind to the needs of the common people.
We want to save 27 billion from running just one entity alone, Parliament.
It will give me the selection of the polling station.
The success of Aukot's ambitious plan is pegged on this electronic system of petitioning that will facilitate public subscription to push for a referendum as enshrined in Article 257 of the Constitution that allows for amendment to the supreme law of the land through public initiative.
So I think it's something to be supported, but it should be discussed widely with the stakeholders and people who are concerned.
Mambo ya kuwa na wabunge wengi inatatiza pia kwa hii hali ya uchumi.
Punguza mizigo. Punguza mizigo. Punguza mizigo. Punguza mizigo. Asante.
This will be the third such attempt at having a national referendum since the inception of a new constitution back in 2010. It's certainly not the first time such an idea is being pushed in the court of public opinion, with previous initiatives such as the Punda Amechoka, as well as the popular Okoa Kenya initiative, falling flat on their face. But what makes Ekuru Aukot's quest different from the rest? According to him, he says the public is actually now fed up with their representatives whom he believes are squandering taxpayers' money. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
All right, and Dr. Aukot, let's start first of all with understanding your full objective of Punda Amechoka initiative.
You see, okay, we first of all, we looked at a number of things. I mean, there are about 6 reasons, which of course, which you guys had highlighted, why this initiative. Number one, it is true that Kenya is overrepresented. Overrepresented in the sense that even if you look at proportionally, look at figures from countries like India, about a population of about 1.something billion, they're represented very shrink. America, 350 million people, about 535 representatives, and many, many other countries in the world. So proportionately, Kenya is overrepresented. We are overrepresented because of the devolved units. Devolution is also another representation, especially at the ward level. So that is one aspect of our representation. We are also talking about a huge wage bill. Right now, it costs Kenyans 32 billion Kenya shillings to run our parliament. We want to reduce this to 5 billion. And see, cost of running an institution must be equated to value. What is the value that we are getting from parliament today? What can Kenyans see as the biggest policy decision that has come from parliament? Right now, we are struggling with things like food crisis, insecurity, floods, disaster preparedness, theft of public money, historical injustice. You don't really see these issues being discussed, yet these are the issues that we thought that our representatives should do. But it's costing us a lot of money. So I think that's one reason. The other reason, we want to end inequality between men and women in this country. Women will agree that for the longest time, they've always been begging this a third thing for women. It's never the other way around. So, and we say, to be able to create an equitable society, not necessarily an equal society, because I think that's an ideal. Equality is an ideal. But to create an equitable society, we can actually, provide this platform where we can send men and women of integrity in equal measure to be able to debate matters national. Now, the other ground, of course, we've looked at how our parliament operates. It is lazy. It is just about politics, party politics. They brag of tyranny of numbers. And let me give you an example why we say they are lazy. 2 weeks ago, we went before the Senate Committee on Revenue Allocation. And we asked Senate, how can you debate a bill called Division of Revenue Bill number 7 of 2018, which is pegged on the 2013-2014 fiscal year audited accounts? The Constitution is clearly says you must divide revenue based on the most recent audited accounts. The Auditor General has completed the audit accounts of 2016-2017. Now, you have a parliament that just debating an audit report of like 5 years ago, and the basis upon which you want to divide money to the counties. They are using 937 billion instead of using $1 trillion, which we collected, to be able to give. In other words, because of their laziness, because of their ineptness, because of the party politics, they are actually denying devolved units development money. And that's why we are saying we need to restructure this parliament so that we can have men and women of integrity. Now, related to that is the need to strengthen devolution. We want to send more resources to devolved countries. We want representation to happen at devolved unit. We want the administrative ward to be the basis of development. And we say this, Gitonga, because if you look at countries that are developed in the world, people sometimes don't care about what happens at the national there. What matters is what happens at my locality. Do I have firefighters? Do I have health facilities? Do I have transport? Do I have roads? Can I go to a clinic? Do we have schools at the local level? And therefore, that's why we say this amendment is not just about reducing the size of parliament, but it's also strengthening devolution, making sure that governors and MCAs actually serve the people more. And the last one is to strengthen Senate. You know, people have laughed at us. I mean, I've gone to many countries in the world to speak about the Kenya constitution-making process, which many people actually admire because we did it in almost record time. I mean, it's very progressive. It's very, very developmental. But when they look at the Senate, they say, okay, if you guys adopted a bicameral house, then how is it that your Senate is so weak? It's not even clear how one qualifies to run as a senator. You know, Senate does not even have veto power. So what we are proposing is, in our amendment, we will make Senate a upper house, as it is traditional anywhere in the world. We will give it veto power. We will clarify how you qualify, because right now it says you can only satisfy any educational level. Now, what does that mean? That's too vague. It's too vague. So we want to clarify that. And you see, by the time we were making this constitution, and many people have asked, oh, Ekuru, you are the CEO of the Committee of Experts. It is true. I was the CEO of the Committee of Experts. But see, constitution making is also about negotiation. And at that time, we had the parliamentarians who also had an interest, who actually weakened the draft that was given by the Committee of Experts in Naivasha. So this, and we have the mechanisms for amending our constitution, strengthening it, which is why we are invoking it now. And by the way, Gitonga, let me correct one narrative from Otieno. Nobody has ever attempted in the history of our constitution to reduce the size of parliament. This is the first time it's happening. There have been attempts at other referenda
to reduce the wage bill, but not specifically with how you're doing it. But now the question is, and I was coming to that, as the chair of the COE, the Committee of Experts in the making of the Constitution.
I was the CEO.
You are the CEO. Sorry, not the chair, the CEO.
Chair was
as a CEO, is this an afterthought? Because this is now the 416 members of Parliament within the Constitution. Is this an afterthought that you're getting now?
Well, not really. In fact, I challenge, if people read our reports, we pointed out even the cost of implementing our own constitution in our various reports. We pointed out the fact that we are overrepresented. We had even proposed the counties to be like 14 regions. But listen, the political context then requires that in a constitution-making process, which is really a negotiation, you have to give in and take something. So I think it's okay, what we promulgated in 2010, but we have now had 8 years of reflection. And you see, I'm not surprised. Many Kenyans then who wanted a constituency to themselves are now saying, no, this is costing us, because look, it is robbing them of value for leadership. It is robbing them of development money. So you can imagine what we can do with 27 billion Kenya shillings. Today, the doctor's strike, the teacher's strike, can actually be resolved by just a saving of 27 billion shillings. Doctors need, about 5 billion to make sure that health care, it's not about their salaries, just to make sure healthcare, even level 4, level 5 hospitals are able to serve Kenyans. This is a question of cost, and we are just starting with this one element. We will come into other elements. People have asked us why Parliament. No, Parliament is not the only, only wage bill we are dealing with, but we have to start somewhere, and we welcome other people to start other initiatives. We will be more than happy to join.
To join. Now, the other challenge that you're likely to face, you've just clearly indicated that you have very little confidence in the IEBC. Yet, if you're going to collect these signatures that you're to collect, the IEBC would probably, not probably, but it's the constitutional body that would now oversee that now we go ahead with what needs to be a referendum and proceed. How are you going to overcome that, given that you already do not have confidence in the IEBC as you speak?
First of all, before we started, remember we wanted to do this thing even last year, just after the election. We always wanted to meet IEBC so that we want to clarify with them, are there things that you think we should take into account? For example, the rules and regulations. So when we went to see IEBC, when eventually they agreed to see us, like after a whole month of chasing them around, we presented to them what is an ICT-based platform for collection of signatures. And I think I wish you guys can do it. You can see from the screen there. All you need to do is just go to thirdwayalliance.com. And once you click it, it brings you the form Punguza Mizigo. It's such a very easy form. It takes you about 1 minute, and you can even sign with your finger or your pen. And this, once you sign, you can put your email, your number. As soon as you complete and submit, you get an email back saying you are now fully signed the form. And it goes to, there's a back-end room. It goes into an Excel spreadsheet. And this was the agreement with the IEBC, that how do we make sure that you can verify these signatures with ease?
Correct.
And that's when we agreed, okay, our platform will then convert this into an Excel spreadsheet, which you will have. So even if you don't have an application, our plan is to go out there and say, okay, Itonga, do you want to sign this petition? I'll go to my phone and sign it for you. There is a unique code, a 5 maximum unique code, which is designed by our ICT shadow cabinet secretaries. And the system is so flawless, it's so smooth. I mean, there is no, whether we have a very weak IEBC or not, their business is just to verify. Is Michael Gitonga a registered voter? Is this his ID? Is this his constituency? They have that database. And by the way, they are the ones who gave us all the polling stations, which we, in about the 40,000 plus. It's all in our application. So you may have the weakest of IEBC, but their business is very simple. Just verify these signatures. And by the way, they told us that the Okoa Kenya and the Punda Mechoka initiative failed because they did not follow process. That's simply what they told us. Okoa Kenya did not follow process. They were told, give us an easy way of verifying. And they refused. They were insisting on the,
physical signatures.
On the physical signatures, which we will also do, but we have a team of people, of agents, who are willing to walk around with their phone, go to a marketplace and tell people, do you want to reduce? And 1 minute, you can register as many people as you can from your phone. And they can sign it themselves.
But would you then have confidence that IEBC will actually verify for you? Because now they're the mandated body, yet you do not trust them to do a credible job.
They have no choice but to do it because it's their constitutional duty to do it. Whether there are weaknesses there or not, we will continue to remind them. And you see, the fact that there are challenges at IEBC, Michael, does not mean that then we should ignore them or shelf them. They are still the only body so far. So I think what is important is for us to keep on engaging IEBC to make sure that they improve the manner in which they deliver service to the people. And we will not accept IEBC not to do its work. Because right now we don't have another IEBC. We will point out the weaknesses. We will insist that you do things the right way.
Yeah. All right. Now, one of the things you've mentioned is that we are overrepresented as a country.
That's true.
And once we reduce from 416 members of parliament to 194, what would be the saving that Kenya would be making? And how do we make our operations more efficient? Because by virtue of the fact that we have many people representing us, ideally, what you talked about is value for money.
Yes.
How would that value for money work out? First of all, let's start with the saving. How much would we be saving once
we will be saving 27 billion Kenya shillings annually from just parliament alone, because the cost of running parliament, if you look at the auditor, by the way, we are not picking this figure from anywhere. It is what has been budgeted for the last, I think, 4 years. To run our parliament is like 32 billion. I think 31.7 something billion Kenya shillings. But we don't really see value for money. In fact, if you read the Auditor General report, even the latest one of the things that he has brought out is that the running of our government departments, including institutions, has not demonstrated value for money. And it's running in billions of Kenya shillings. So that will be a huge saving, not just only in parliament, but also in the departments of government, ministries and others. So we are really, I think what we are initiating here is really a monster that will save Kenyans beyond just 27 billion, because now this principle will apply to all government departments. So that's one thing we are doing. Secondly, Gitonga, in your answer to your question, you see, you'll be surprised how many members of parliament have actually come to us and said, you know what, bring this motion, we need it. I wanted to go to parliament to be able to participate. We are not able to. And that's the question of, we want a lean, efficient institution.
How does it become more efficient? I mean, like you started off by saying the fish rots from the head. Now, if the very people who are there are not able to do it, and you think it's because of the numbers, how will reducing the numbers make it more efficient?
First of all, right now, are you able to actually monitor the performance of your member of parliament?
No.
Absolutely no. That's what the question we have asked many people. They say they are not able to, because these people are just too many. It's like you are in a crowd, you are in a marketplace. So I think if we reduce the numbers, then we are able to actually monitor the performance, the debates of our parliament. So there are some members of parliament who have never spoken. They have never sponsored any motion. So the question is, I thought you were sent there to represent your constituency. What is it that you have represented? We are not able to monitor how they are playing oversight role over government. So with a lean and small number, then we are able to actually see them performing our function. Number two, our campaign is also urging Kenyans, send to the National Assembly and to Senate the best from your county. Because like we said, we want one man, one woman to be elected from a county to the Senate and to the National Assembly. So we are urging Kenyans, we are challenging Kenyans. The bad leadership you see in National Assembly, the lazy leadership you see in National Assembly, the one that does not debate your theft of public money is a reflection of who you are.
All right, let's hear from a member of parliament. I understand we have Moses Kuria online. And Mheshimiwa, your comments or question, or maybe you'd like to weigh in into the discussion. Moses Kuria.
Good morning, Michael.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, my greetings to Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. And I like the use of the word Mr. President.
Yeah, first of all, it's not true that members of parliament are lazy.
Okay.
We are just too many.
So you agree that you're too many?
We are too many.
Okay.
And if there is any proof that a leaner parliament can perform, then it is the way we perform during parliamentary committees. Because now parliamentary committees, as we have now, are 19 to 21 members. And there's a lot of effective quality work that's happening in those committees.
Okay.
I'm a member of the Transport and Housing Infrastructure Committee. I am the vice chair, and I'm also a member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. And I can assure you that we have got a lot of quality work, being 19 members or 27 members respectively in those committees. So that is a reflection of how effective Parliament can be if even the White House will reduce the numbers.
Okay. And Mheshimiwa, you at one time tried to sponsor a bill to reduce the members of Parliament. At what point did you fail?
No, I feel due to logistical challenges because I didn't have any institutional support. Obviously, expecting that support to come from my fellow members of Parliament, whom I was trying to reduce, was not a very, well thought out idea. And I do wish Dr. Ekuru Aukot well in his mission. He has my full support, but I just hope that he has got his logistical game all tied up together.
All right, and I think he had a question for you. You had a question for...
Mheshimiwa,
Yes,
okay, so let me just say that, okay, fine. When I use the word lazy, I used it technically. Because, for example, can you explain to the listeners why, for example, an entire parliament could miss to use the most recent audited accounts? Because the Division of Revenue Bill now, number 7 of 2018, which I must have participated in its debate, is using the 2013-2014 audited accounts. Don't you think this is an aspect of laziness, if you like, that people really ought to have seen the right report?
It's an act of laziness on the side of the Auditor General.
But Mheshimiwa, the Constitution is very clear that both the National Assembly and the county assemblies under Article 229 of the Constitution must debate the most recent audited account within 3 months.
No, but the problem is not in Parliament, and your frustration is our frustration, that we keep getting these reports when they are very much delayed. There is no single queue of reports that come from Kenya National Audit Office, that's not debated by the Public Accounts Committee. We simply use the latest that we have received. So what you're saying is right, but what we need to have is a more effective audit office. They are grossly understaffed, and they are not, in fact, they are hopeless, especially in view of the theft and waste that's happening within our counties, especially.
All right. All right, thank you, Mheshimiwa Moses Kuria, for your comments on that. And, well, he disagrees that members of Parliament are not lazy, but one thing that he agrees with you is that we're definitely overrepresented. Now, one of the things that he cited as a challenge for him was the logistical issues, and he wishes you all the best. Do you think you have that sorted out?
Well, not quite, but we have a lot of volunteers. Even right now, as I'm just reading my messages, I think people are watching this program. People are saying, please, I want to volunteer to help. So I think that's an aspect of logistical issue. We will also be making an appeal for people to actually support this initiative. We just launched the online platform. Our intention is also to go around the various counties, and this week we'll be trying to reach out to our supporters out there. We are receiving a lot of phone calls and people really wanting to do it. I mean, so far I've received people wanting to volunteer from Meru, from Isiolo, Mombasa at least, I know Kajiado. I mean, we are compiling all that list, and I think that will help us in terms of our logistical issue. It may not be possible for us to go to all the 47 counties, but we have agents, because that's what we are working on that. And of course, we also have a very lean resource base right now, and we will be making, I think, an appeal again to well-wishers. And of course, I'll be looking for Honorable Moses Kuria. He should take me to Gatundu South now that he supports this reduction of parliament. I hope I will be able to tag along with him to his constituency, where he can also help us collect as many signatures as possible.
See whether you can tap into his resource. But the other thing is reducing the number of members of parliament is one way of tackling it. But do you think that our members of parliament currently are overpaid? We are one of the most highly paid nations in terms of members of parliament. And like you mentioned, value for money. We don't seem to get that value for money.
It is true the members of parliament currently are overpaid. And we have done now a bit of research. Sometimes when you talk to some of the members of the parliament, they'll tell you, but it is this very, very constituent electorate who are actually forcing us to participate in our Rambes, to participate in this. And there seems to be a justification why they must be paid. But I don't think Kenya can afford that right now, Gitonga. We need, and one of the things that we are going to urge the Salaries and Remuneration Commission is to actually do what was intended by the drafters of the Constitution. Do actually a job evaluation. And you see, with this job evaluation, now, with a few members of parliament, then we are able to actually say what is reasonable to pay them under the circumstances. Because you see, one of the things that our amendment is going to do is actually going to tame perennial greed from members of parliament. Like I said, the first point, the fact that parliament is more politicized than actually doing its mandate of legislation, oversight, and representation. The only thing that these people seem to agree on all the time is increasing their wage bill, increasing their sitting allowances. Right now, a member of parliament is probably paid something close to $1 million or thereabouts. And sometimes the allowances are not actually accounted for. I mean, it's like getting 2 salaries. And honestly, even in a country such as ours with so many serious development issues and concerns, we cannot afford to pay a tiny minority of individuals 500,000 shillings and above. Again, I will remind Kenyans to look at our manifesto, Thirdway Alliance manifesto, called Our Promise to Kenyans. We propose some of these things, how we can cut down the wage bill, so that a lot of money can actually go to devolved units, to making sure that we have enough water, clean water, health facilities are working, we have got better schools, we can pay our lecturers. Like today, I mean, Gitonga, look at the teachers' lecturer strike. It is affecting about 500,000 Kenyans. And why? Because they probably need something like about 20-something billion Kenya shillings. But 416 individuals are actually taking home 32 billion annually. Even proportionate, even in terms of fairness and equity. It does not make sense. It does not make sense.
So in your Punguza Mzigo initiative, are you also proposing on having the salaries reduced? Because at the end of the day, that may also help us in having more quality leaders in parliament when the job is not that lucrative. One of the reasons why it's so politicized and people literally will, as it were, kill for that job is because of how lucrative it is.
You see, you have to look at, for example, the benefits that a member of parliament is getting. It's basically like an avenue to go and enrich yourself. In other democracies of the world, as you know, people go into public service to serve, not to enrich themselves. Now, members of parliament get a very hefty salary. They get a car allowance. They get a mortgage allowance. I mean, come on. Public service is not the corporate world. If you want to get rich, go to the corporate world. This is a service to society. I mean, if you want legislate so that there will be more businesses and people can do. So we will definitely be proposing. I mean, the details of the bill will come as we go along. But certainly, one of the things that we're pushing for is to cut perennial greed by members of parliament, including how much should they be paid. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission has actually failed this country by not doing a job evaluation of all public servants. You know, in fact, they should. I mean, if you look at, for example, let me give you an example of a teacher, a primary school teacher, or even a high school teacher, or even a lecturer. And look at the amount of work those people do in terms of molding the future generations of this country. But let's look at a politician. You could be the loudest in your constituency, probably not even as educated as the lecturers, the professors, but you blow a lot of money, you have security, you have a car. The man who watches over you or guards you for 24/7 takes home 15,000 Kenya shillings. A policeman who guards Mheshimiwa, who drives Mheshimiwa. But Mheshimiwa takes home close to $1 million. Over and above that, he has a house. He even has, I think things like domestic allowance and blah, blah. This is not fair. This is inequality. We will never say we are developed in equitable terms. We also expect the teacher, the policeman, to be able to take their children to university, to afford medical care, to live a certain good life, to live,
Just to have a decent living.
To have a decent living.
All right, we are running out of time. So as we wind up, maybe just to get your thoughts and your feeling regarding the current situation, politically speaking, after now we have Raila Odinga, the opposition leader, and Uhuru Kenyatta, with what now has been termed as the golden handshake. Your thoughts on that?
First of all, Gitonga, it confirms what we said to Kenyans in the last 2 general elections, that Thirdway Alliance Kenya will actively play opposition politics, that we will not shelve the ideas we had when we ran for the presidency of this country and wanted to form the government.
Do you think NASA has done that, has shelved the ideas by...
Well, by joining government, obviously, they're one and the same. And I remember we kept on telling people, and I said on this bench, that when you look at these 2 formations, they're actually political Siamese twins. I mean, they always work for their best interest. But you know what? There is a good aspect of that arrangement, because many people will tell you that the tension that had been created by the politics of confrontation between the 2 formations was very dangerous for this country. Last year, I had some very good clients who really wanted to come and invest in Kenya. And they said, despite Kenya's politics, we still think Kenya is the best country to invest in. But when this politics of confrontation continued for a long time, culminating up to the swearing in of Raila as a parallel president, it really scared away a lot of investors, and businesses suffered. So I think after the handshake, somehow things calmed down.
There's a positive side.
There's a positive side of it. So we have no problem with that. But politically, it has paved way for us as Thirdway Alliance to be the only opposition political party that can actually check on this government, and even the formation of NASA and is it NASA? I don't know whether NASA B, NASA C, and D together with Jubilee. I think we encourage them because we are not surprised. Actually, what surprises me, Gitonga, is that Kenyans are surprised that handshake took place. But
for you, it was expected?
I've always said that these political formations are one and the same. They work together. So for us, because our brand of politics is different from theirs, as we want a politics of conversation. And that's why for us, you can see, Gitonga, since last year, we are the only political party that has endeavored to bring into the discourse a national conversation on the 14-point agenda we shared with you. We participated in the vetting of the cabinet. We participated on the kind of budget we need. We are now challenging the division of revenue. We have a shadow cabinet. No anybody else. So for us, we live our cause, and we believe that the opportunity is there for us now to play, a politics of engagement, politics of conversation.
Okay.
And this is what I think I can glean from.
Will be progressive. And your comments on the separation of powers from the executive, judiciary, and what has been happening. And of course, we do know what happened to Miguna, and you as one of the committee of experts in forming the constitution, is this where you envisaged us to be?
You see, there's been a lot of debate around the Miguna issue. But what a lot of these so-called analysts are not, saying is that the fallback position in this country for any of the political formation is impunity. My analysis is that all formations have applied political measures against each other. I disagree with the government disobeying court orders. That I disagree with them, totally. But I think, like I said, it's the political measures or means that each one of them is applying to a legal issue. And that is why the judiciary becomes disadvantaged when they give an order. They should, to date, I'm actually surprised why, for example, C.S. Matiang'i has not sworn an affidavit, from what I hear on the sides, that Miguna may have obtained his passport irregularly, his ID irregularly. Why not put that in evidence for the court to consider? Why not come out clearly and say, this is what this man, did. He did not renounce his citizenship under Article 14, Sub-Article 5. You see, under the old Constitution, Gitonga, and I don't know whether this has been discussed in your bench, but we can find time to come and discuss it some more. I don't want to discuss the personality of Miguna, but let's discuss our Constitution. If a Kenyan acquired citizenship under the old constitution, of another country, you automatically lost your Kenyan citizenship. So when we were doing the new constitution, we said, why should other foreigners come to Kenya, enjoy dual citizenship, have not renounced their citizenship, and yet still be Kenyan? So we said we'll also give Kenyans an opportunity, Kenyans by birth, an opportunity who want to regain, and that is the language in Article 4, 14, Sub-Article 5, that if you want to regain your citizenship, you must do that by application. Because again, you cannot force somebody who says, I don't want to be a citizen of this country
to become a citizen.
To become a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So that
in short, there is due procedure for you to regain your citizenship if you had renounced it.
There is due procedure. It is explained for. And in fact, there is a
failure to which, if you do not apply,
that's your problem.
That's your problem.
And Justice Isaac Lenaola, in one of his judgments, actually pronounced himself so eloquently on this issue, so that even a Kenyan by birth, you must follow process. Over and above that, let's also respect our own laws. You cannot choose willy-nilly which one to follow and which one not to follow.
Dr. Ekuru Aukot, we'll have to wind up right there because of time. Thank you for joining us this morning. That's party leader for Thirdway Alliance, Dr. Ekuru Aukot, basically just commenting on a few things, but also Punguza Mzigo initiative, which...
Thirdwayalliance.com. It only takes you 1 minute if you believe in this idea.
Okay.
To just sign up.
Thank you very much, Daktari, for joining us this morning. For now, we're going to take a short break, but do stay with us. Morning Express continues in just a bit.